Maya stepped out of the car at the quiet private terminal just as the sky began to turn pale gold. The building looked more like a modern hotel than an airport, all glass and smooth stone and soft lights. A row of luxury cars sat near the curb, and the air smelled clean like polished floors and early morning cold. She held a small travel bag in one hand and a thin folder in the other, walking with calm purpose. Inside, the lobby was almost silent, with only a few footsteps and the low hum of distant machines. Maya took a slow breath, not because she was nervous, but because she had waited a long time for this day. At the front desk, a young attendant greeted her with a practiced smile and asked for her name. Maya gave it, clear and simple, and handed over her ID without any extra explanation. The attendant typed for a moment, then paused, then typed again, his smile fading into confusion. He glanced at Maya, then at the screen, then back again, like the system was refusing to agree with his eyes. He cleared his throat and said, politely at first, that he could not find her on the passenger list. Maya nodded once and asked him to search by the flight number that was printed on her confirmation. The attendant tried again, slower this time, and his shoulders tensed as if the keyboard was suddenly heavier. He said the jet was scheduled, the crew was ready, but the list was finalized, and her name was not there. He added that this terminal served private clients only, as if that single line was the end of the discussion. Maya kept her voice calm and asked who was listed as the primary traveler for the aircraft outside. The attendant hesitated, then said he could not share that information without authorization. A security guard near the entrance shifted his weight and looked at her bag like it was a reason to doubt her. A man in a crisp uniform walked over from the side hallway, wearing the confident expression of someone used to control. He introduced himself as part of the ground crew and asked Maya to step aside so others could check in. Maya did not move away. She simply turned toward him and repeated the same flight number. He took one look at her and said there was no match, then said she might be in the wrong place. His tone was not loud, but it was sharp, like he expected her to feel embarrassed and leave quickly. Behind him, another crew member smiled in a way that felt more like judgment than friendliness. Maya felt a quiet sting, not from the words, but from how easily they were said. A couple seated near the lounge area glanced over, then quickly looked away, pretending to be busy. The room suddenly felt smaller, as if all the clean air had turned into pressure on her shoulders. Maya placed her folder gently on the counter and opened it, revealing a printed confirmation and an ownership document. The crewman barely looked, saying papers could be faked and that the manifest was the only thing that mattered. Maya asked him a simple question: did he verify anything, or was he deciding based on what he assumed? The crewman gave a short laugh and said he had done this job for years and could tell when someone was not a client. Maya did not raise her voice, but her eyes hardened, and she asked for the terminal manager. The attendant made the call, his hands slightly shaking as if he realized this was going wrong. While they waited, Maya stared through the glass wall at the jet parked at the far end of the runway. It was sleek and white with a dark stripe, shining under the growing sunlight like it belonged in a magazine. A memory rose in her mind of working late nights at a small office, saving, building, investing, refusing to quit. People had smiled at her dreams the same way this crewman smiled now, as if hope was naive and ownership was impossible. Maya had learned not to argue with doubt. She had learned to outlast it, then arrive quietly with proof. She looked back at the counter and saw the crewman watching her like he expected her to break. Instead, she adjusted the strap of her bag and waited, steady and patient. The manager arrived with quick steps and an impatient face, dressed in a suit that looked expensive and tight. He asked what the issue was, speaking fast, as if the problem itself was wasting his time. The crewman spoke first, saying a woman was trying to access a private flight without being listed. Maya corrected him gently, saying she was trying to access her flight and asking for a proper verification. The manager asked for her documents, scanned them, then handed them back with a thin smile that did not reach his eyes. He said the terminal had strict rules and could not allow entry without the right list, no matter what papers claimed. Maya nodded and asked him to open the aircraft file and check the registration number printed on her confirmation. The manager hesitated, then agreed, confident he would prove her wrong and end the situation. He stepped behind the desk, logged into the system, and searched by the registration number Maya provided. His expression changed slowly, like someone watching a door open in a place they thought was a wall. He tried again, then called a back office line, speaking in a lower voice now. The attendant leaned forward, eyes wide, while the crewman shifted his stance, suddenly less relaxed. Maya watched quietly, feeling the moment turning, not because she wanted power, but because truth was finally entering the room. The manager ended the call and looked at Maya as if seeing her for the first time, not as a stranger, but as a fact. Maya asked him to read the owner field out loud, and his lips parted, then closed again, like the words were too heavy. A long silence settled, and the polished lobby seemed to hold its breath with everyone inside it. The manager finally spoke, voice softer, saying there had been a misunderstanding and that the records showed something unexpected. Maya tilted her head slightly and asked him to confirm what the records showed, clearly, so no one could twist it later. He swallowed and said the aircraft was registered under a holding company, and the primary owner listed was Maya Reed. The crewman's face tightened, the smile gone, replaced by a stiff look of shock and worry. The attendant stared at Maya with a mix of regret and disbelief, like his mind was rushing to rewrite the last 10 minutes. Maya did not celebrate, she did not mock them, she simply reached for her folder and held it close again. Then she looked at the jet outside and said quietly that this was only the beginning of the conversation. The manager stood very still after saying her name out loud. The lobby felt colder even though the heaters were running and the lights were warm. Maya could hear a distant cart rolling somewhere in the back hallway and the faint buzz of a printer. The crewman who had laughed earlier looked away like the floor had suddenly become interesting. The attendant kept staring at the screen as if he wanted the letters to rearrange into something safer. Maya did not change her face, but inside she felt a slow wave of relief and a sharper wave of disappointment. The manager cleared his throat and tried to smile again, this time softer, more careful. He said there had been an error in communication and that the records had not been updated for the morning shift. He added that private aviation involved many moving parts, as if complexity could excuse disrespect. Maya listened without interrupting, letting him fill the silence with explanations that felt thin. When he finished, she asked one question: why was the first response to deny her instead of verify her? The manager blinked like the question surprised him, then said the crew followed procedure. Maya looked toward the crewman and asked him what procedure he followed when he decided she did not belong. The crewman shifted his feet and said he relied on the passenger list and his experience. Maya asked him to repeat the part about experience and he did, but quieter this time. She asked how his experience told him she could not be the owner of the jet outside. He opened his mouth, then closed it, and the answer hung in the air without being spoken. The couple in the lounge area kept their heads down, but their body language showed they were listening closely. A woman near the coffee station paused mid-sip, eyes fixed on Maya, then looked away in embarrassment. Maya could feel the attention, but she refused to let it pull her into anger or drama. The manager offered to escort Maya to a private room while they arranged immediate access. Maya agreed, not because she needed comfort, but because she wanted the next steps documented properly. They walked down a quiet corridor with framed photos of jets on the walls and soft carpeting underfoot. Inside a small meeting room, the manager closed the door and spoke in a lower voice. He apologized again and said he would personally ensure the crew treated her with full respect. Maya sat calmly and placed her folder on the table, then asked for a written incident report. The manager looked surprised, as if accountability was an unusual request in a place built on luxury. Maya explained that she did not want anyone punished for a simple mistake. She wanted a clear record because what happened was not a simple mistake. It was a pattern of quick judgment, a pattern she had faced in different forms in different places. She told the manager that she had built her company from nothing, step by step, with discipline and patience. She said she did not expect special treatment, only fair treatment, and those were not the same thing. The manager nodded, but his eyes showed discomfort, like he was realizing the weight of the moment. Maya asked him to bring in the crew leads so she could speak to them directly, calmly, without drama. A few minutes later, the crew leads entered, including the crewmen from the lobby. They stood near the door with stiff posture, hands clasped, faces guarded. Maya stayed seated to keep the tone controlled, not confrontational, and she asked each person to state their name. One by one they did, voices low, as if they expected a storm that never came. Maya thanked them and said she would explain her expectations clearly. She said every client who walked into this terminal deserved verification before judgment. She said status should be confirmed through systems and documents, not guessed through appearance. The crewman tried to speak, saying he meant no harm and that he thought he was protecting the operation. Maya nodded and said protection without respect becomes a different kind of danger. She asked him to describe what he saw when she entered, and he gave a vague answer about uncertainty. Maya asked him what exactly made him uncertain, and he hesitated again. The room grew quiet, and even the manager looked like he wished the conversation could end. Maya did not push for humiliation, she pushed for honesty. She said that people often hide behind the word procedure when the real reason is assumption. She asked him to think about how quickly he laughed, how quickly he dismissed her documents, how quickly he told her to leave. The crewman swallowed and admitted he should have checked more carefully. Maya said that was the only answer she needed, because it showed the truth. Then she told them she was not here to ruin anyone's life. She was here to ensure the service she owned ran with dignity and fairness. The crew leads glanced at each other, now realizing a new reality. This jet was not owned by a distant firm or a faceless investor. It was owned by the woman sitting calmly in front of them, asking for standards. Maya asked the manager to open the crew assignment file for the flight. She asked who had authority to deny boarding and under what conditions. The manager explained the basic policy, and Maya listened carefully, then pointed out the gap. The gap was simple. A denial was made before verification, and that was not policy, that was attitude. She asked the manager to note that the denial happened in public, creating embarrassment and discomfort. The manager nodded, writing notes, his pen moving faster than before. Maya asked for the security camera reference times, so the interaction could be reviewed without debate. The manager agreed, and the crew leads looked more nervous, as if they were seeing consequences forming. Maya stood up slowly and said she would now continue with the flight preparations. The manager rushed to open the door, suddenly eager to serve. In the hallway, an assistant approached with a tablet, introducing herself as Nora. Nora apologized on behalf of the terminal and said she would be assigned as Maya's direct support moving forward. Maya thanked her and asked Nora to stay close and take notes as they returned to the lobby. Back in the main area, the same people who had looked away earlier now watched openly. Their eyes were different now, filled with curiosity and respect, but Maya did not welcome it. Respect that arrives only after proof is not respect, it is fear of being wrong. At the counter, the attendant spoke quickly, apologizing with a trembling voice. Maya told him she accepted the apology, but she wanted him to learn one lesson. The lesson was to verify first, always, because every person walking in could be someone important. Then Maya turned toward the glass wall and looked at her jet again. The crew outside had paused their work, waiting for instructions, faces tense. Maya adjusted her bag and walked toward the exit with steady steps. She was not walking as a guest now, she was walking as the owner, and everyone could feel the difference. Near the door, the crewman stepped forward and asked if he could speak for a moment. Maya stopped and gave him her attention, calm and direct. He said he was sorry and that he had made assumptions that were wrong. Maya nodded and said an apology is only real when it changes behavior. She told him she would make decisions after reviewing the full report and the video. She said fairness included fairness to him too, but fairness did not mean ignoring what happened. The crewman lowered his head and stepped back, the lesson landing heavier than any raised voice could have. Outside, the morning air felt cleaner than the lobby, and the runway stretched wide under the brightening sky. Maya paused for a moment, listening to the distant engine tests and the soft wind across the open space. Nora walked beside her, ready to guide her up the steps, but Maya lifted a hand gently. She wanted one more moment to look at the jet as a symbol of everything she had endured to get here. Not just long hours and hard choices, but the constant need to prove what others assumed could not be true. She took a breath and told Nora they would proceed. As Maya walked toward the jet, she knew the real flight had already started inside that terminal. The rest of the journey would decide what kind of owner she would be, and what kind of standards she would demand. The steps of the jet were lowered slowly, and the sound echoed across the quiet runway. Maya paused at the base, then turned back toward the terminal as if something still needed attention. Nora followed her gaze and waited without speaking. Inside the glass walls, the manager and crew stood watching, unsure of what would come next. Maya realized that leadership was not about walking away when truth appeared. It was about staying long enough to shape what followed. She told Nora to ask the manager to bring the crew leads outside for a final briefing. Nora moved quickly and returned with them moments later, their faces tense but alert. They stood in a loose line near the jet, sunlight casting long shadows across the concrete. Maya faced them calmly and spoke in a steady voice that carried without effort. She said this flight would be delayed slightly to complete a full internal review. She explained that delays cost money, but broken standards cost much more. The manager nodded quickly, agreeing, while the crew leads listened closely. Maya reminded them that this jet represented trust from clients who expected fairness. She said that trust could not survive if people were judged before being verified. The crewman who had laughed earlier kept his eyes down, absorbing every word. Maya asked each crew lead to explain how decisions were made during boarding. They spoke one by one, describing checklists, approvals, and handoffs. As they spoke, Maya noticed how often the word assumption appeared without being named. She pointed this out gently, saying assumptions slip into gaps where clarity should live. She said systems exist to protect everyone, staff and clients alike. When systems are ignored, personal bias fills the space. The manager looked uncomfortable but did not interrupt. Maya could tell this conversation was not common in places built for comfort. She then asked a direct question that made the air feel heavy. She asked how many times someone had been turned away first and checked later. No one answered right away, which answered the question clearly enough. Maya said silence often reveals patterns more honestly than reports. She reminded them that patterns create culture, and culture defines reputation. This terminal had a reputation for excellence, but excellence required constant correction. She said she would not allow quiet harm to hide behind polished walls. The crew lead shifted, realizing this was not just about one morning. Maya told them she would review footage, reports, and policy documents personally. She explained that ownership did not mean distance for her. It meant responsibility, especially when power had already caused harm. She said some actions would be taken today and others after review. No one would be judged unfairly, but no one would be protected from accountability. The crewman looked up for the first time, fear and hope mixing on his face. Maya met his eyes and nodded once, not in forgiveness, but in acknowledgement. She believed fairness included transparency, even when it was uncomfortable. The manager stepped forward and asked what she needed immediately. Maya said she wanted the boarding authority temporarily reassigned. She wanted checks to require 2 confirmations instead of 1. She also wanted a written reminder issued to all staff about verification procedures. The manager agreed quickly, already making calls. Maya watched him work and felt a quiet satisfaction. Not because she enjoyed control, but because action was replacing apology. She had learned long ago that words alone rarely changed systems. Change needed structure and follow-through. With the immediate steps set, Maya finally turned back toward the jet. As she climbed the steps, the crew outside stood straighter. Inside, the cabin was quiet and welcoming, filled with soft light and clean lines. Maya took her seat and placed her bag beside her. She looked out the window at the terminal one more time. She could see movement inside, staff speaking, writing, adjusting. The ripple had begun, and she knew it would not stop here. Nora took a seat nearby, tablet ready, eyes focused. As the door closed, Maya allowed herself a long breath. The tension she had carried since entering the terminal finally eased. She thought about how many moments like this had shaped her life. Moments where patience had been mistaken for weakness. Moments where silence had been mistaken for lack of authority. She had learned to speak when it mattered and stay calm when it counted. Today had required both. She closed her eyes briefly, centering herself before the engines started. During the slow taxi, Nora asked quietly if Maya wanted anything documented further. Maya said yes and outlined a training review she wanted planned. She wanted real examples included, not abstract rules. She wanted staff to understand how small decisions affect real people. Nora nodded, impressed by the clarity of the vision. Maya explained that respect should not depend on wealth or status. It should be automatic, consistent, and practiced daily. Only then could luxury mean dignity rather than exclusion. The jet rolled forward smoothly, steady and controlled. As they waited for clearance, Maya reflected on the crewman again. She wondered how many times he had acted without challenge. She wondered how many people had left quietly, carrying shame they did not deserve. That thought tightened her chest more than the confrontation itself. She knew she could not fix everything in one day. But she could start with the space she controlled. Ownership gave her access, but intention gave her direction. She decided that intention would guide every choice she made from here. The engines began to hum louder, vibrating through the cabin. Maya looked out at the runway stretching wide and open. This flight was not just travel, it was transition. She was moving from private success into visible leadership. That visibility came with responsibility she was ready to accept. She adjusted her seat and opened her folder again. Inside were notes, plans, and reminders of why she built what she built. Not for status, but for freedom and fairness. As the jet lifted into the air, the terminal shrank below. Maya watched it fade into the distance, knowing the real work remained behind her. What happened next would unfold without her presence. But the tone had been set, the expectations clear. She believed change could begin quietly and still be powerful. The sky opened wide ahead, calm and endless. Maya leaned back, focused and steady. Part of her journey was complete, and a deeper one had just begun. Maya sat with her laptop open as the jet leveled out above a blanket of soft white clouds. The cabin was quiet, and the steady hum of the engines felt like a controlled heartbeat. Nora sat across from her with a tablet, ready to capture every decision and every instruction. Maya did not look angry, but she looked focused in a way that made small talk disappear. She reviewed the notes she had written earlier, the timestamps, the names, the exact words that were said. She knew that if she wanted real change, she had to act like a leader, not like someone chasing a moment. She told Nora to draft a formal review request and include the temporary policy changes already approved. Then she asked Nora to schedule a call with the terminal manager, the operations head, and the training coordinator. The call connected while the jet moved smoothly through calm air. The manager sounded nervous, trying to keep his voice steady, while the other leaders spoke with careful respect. Maya greeted them simply and said she wanted solutions, not excuses, and she wanted them quickly. She asked for the exact policy document used during boarding and the step that was meant to trigger verification. She asked for the full crew assignment list, including who had authority to deny access in the lobby. She also asked for the last 3 months of incident logs, not because she expected chaos, but because patterns hide in silence. The operations head said they would provide it immediately, and the training coordinator promised a new module within a week. Maya said a week was too slow, so she asked for a temporary training briefing to begin within 24 hours. After the call, Nora exhaled like she had been holding her breath the entire time. Maya noticed and gave a small nod, as if to say the pressure was real but manageable. Nora asked gently if Maya planned to remove the entire team from service. Maya said no, because fairness also means precision, not wide punishment. She explained that some people made a wrong choice, some people watched it happen, and some people tried to fix it. Those were not the same actions, and she would not treat them as the same. Maya told Nora to separate the crew roles into 3 groups: direct involvement, passive approval, and corrective response. She wanted decisions based on facts, not feelings, even though feelings had been part of the harm. Nora typed quickly, impressed by the way Maya kept emotion from turning into chaos. As the flight continued, Maya looked out the window and remembered her earliest days in business. She had started with a tiny desk, a second-hand chair, and a calendar filled with goals she refused to abandon. She remembered walking into meetings where people spoke past her, as if she was a helper, not the decision-maker. She remembered the slow burn of proving herself again and again, not because she lacked skill, but because others lacked imagination. That memory did not make her bitter, it made her careful. She did not want to become someone who demanded respect through fear. She wanted to build a culture where respect was normal, where people did not have to announce their importance to be treated well. She knew that change would not happen with one speech or one email. It would happen through repeated expectations, repeated training, and repeated consequences when standards were ignored. When the jet landed, the world outside was brighter and warmer than the morning they had left behind. A car waited near the private gate, and a small local team greeted Maya with quiet professionalism. Maya thanked them and asked for a simple meeting room at her office building downtown. Within an hour, she sat at a long table with Nora and 2 senior advisors, Sam and Lena. Sam was calm and detail-driven, the kind of person who could find a weak link in any system. Lena was sharp and direct, with a way of seeing people clearly without being cruel about it. They listened as Maya described the events from the terminal, focusing on sequence and behavior. Sam asked about verification steps, Lena asked about tone and response, and Nora provided timestamps and names. Maya told them she wanted an action plan that was fair, firm, and visible to every employee in that terminal. Sam suggested immediate suspension from flight duty for anyone who denied access without verification. Lena suggested a broader policy update that required a verification check before any denial could be stated out loud. Maya agreed with both, then added something more important. She wanted a client dignity policy, written in simple language, posted internally and taught in training. It would say that every client must be treated with professional respect, with no shortcuts and no guessing. She also wanted an anonymous reporting channel for staff, so employees could speak up when they saw unfair behavior. Maya knew that some workers stayed silent because they feared conflict or feared losing their job. A culture changes when people feel safe to tell the truth. Nora wrote everything down, then asked if Maya wanted a public statement. Maya said not yet, because public statements can become performance if the system stays the same. Later that evening, Maya sat alone for a few minutes in her office, lights low, city sounds far below. The day had moved fast, but her mind stayed clear, replaying the moment in the lobby like a scene on repeat. She remembered the crewmen laughing, the manager dismissing, the strangers watching like it was entertainment. She did not want revenge, but she did want accountability that would teach, not just punish. She knew the terminal would try to smooth it over, to protect its image, to move on quietly. Maya refused to let it become a secret lesson that only she carried. She wanted the staff to learn, and she wanted leadership to feel the cost of ignoring respect. She opened her email and saw the incident report arriving in pieces, messages, logs, and attachments. She read every line, slowly, making notes, highlighting words that revealed attitude more than facts. The next morning, Maya joined a video meeting with the terminal leadership team. The manager looked tired, the training coordinator looked stressed, and the operations head looked cautious. Maya began by confirming the facts. The denial happened before verification, the tone used was dismissive, the laughter occurred in public. She said these were not small details, because small details shape how safe a space feels. She then announced the immediate actions. The crew members directly involved would be removed from client-facing duties pending review. Those who stood by without correcting would attend mandatory training and be placed under observation. Those who attempted to correct the situation would receive coaching support, because speaking up is a skill that needs protection. The manager would remain in position temporarily but would be reviewed by corporate leadership for conduct and response. Maya kept her voice calm and plain, and that calm made the consequences feel heavier, not lighter. After the meeting, Nora asked if Maya felt satisfied with the decisions. Maya said satisfaction was not the goal, improvement was the goal. She said the hardest part would be what happens after the headlines fade, after people stop watching. That is when habits return, and that is when leaders must stay consistent. Maya told Nora to schedule a surprise audit of the terminal within 30 days. She wanted to see behavior when no one expected her to be there. She also wanted to review hiring practices, because training helps, but selection matters too. People who enjoy dismissing others should not be placed in roles that require respect and discretion. Nora nodded and said she would coordinate with Sam and Lena to build the plan. That evening, Maya received a message from a staff member at the terminal. It was short and careful, but honest, saying that what Maya did gave them courage. The staff member said they had seen people treated unfairly before, but they never felt safe speaking up. Maya read the message twice, then leaned back, feeling a tightness in her chest loosen slightly. She replied with a simple note, thanking them and reminding them the new reporting channel would protect them. She understood then that her choices were already creating a ripple beyond her own experience. This was not just about one jet and one morning, it was about dignity becoming a standard, not a reward. Maya looked out at the city lights and decided that the next part of the story would not be about conflict. It would be about what real leadership looks like when no one is clapping. Maya returned to the private terminal 1 month later on a quiet afternoon. She arrived without announcing herself, dressed simply, carrying only a small bag and a plain folder. The sky was bright but calm, and the air smelled of clean pavement and distant jet fuel. Nora walked beside her, quiet and observant, ready to note everything without drawing attention. Maya wanted to see the truth of the place when it did not know she was watching. A terminal can look perfect when leaders are present. But culture reveals itself in the small moments, the casual greetings, the first response to a stranger. Maya stepped through the glass doors and let her eyes take in every detail. At the front desk, a new attendant looked up and offered a polite greeting. His voice was steady, his posture open, and his eyes held no judgment. He asked how he could help, and Maya gave a flight number that was not on the schedule. She watched his face carefully, expecting confusion, but he did not dismiss her. He said he would verify and asked if she preferred to wait by the lounge or remain at the desk. Maya chose the lounge and sat where she could see the counter clearly. The attendant made a call, checked the system, and returned with calm clarity. He explained that the number did not match their schedule and asked if she might have another reference. There was no laughter, no quick rejection, no suggestion that she did not belong. Maya thanked him and said she was testing the process. The attendant blinked, surprised, then smiled politely, waiting for more information. Maya stood and introduced herself by name and watched his expression shift into recognition. He remained respectful, but she could tell the awareness arrived like a wave. He immediately offered to call the manager, but Maya lifted a hand and said it was not needed. She asked him what he would have done if she had been on the schedule and still not on the passenger list. He answered without hesitation, saying he would verify through registration and ownership contacts before making any denial. Maya nodded, feeling the first quiet sign of progress settling in her chest. Nora typed a quick note, her eyes shining with relief. The manager stepped out from the hallway anyway, drawn by the subtle change in tone at the desk. He looked different than before, less hurried, less confident in the old careless way. He greeted Maya carefully and asked if she had come for an inspection. Maya said yes and asked for a quick walkthrough of new policy steps. They walked together through the corridor with framed jet photos and quiet lighting. The manager explained the two-step verification, the training briefings, and the reporting channel. He showed her a small internal poster near the staffroom door with simple rules in plain language. Verify before deny, treat every client with respect, use calm language, ask for help when unsure. Maya asked to speak with a few staff members privately. The manager arranged it quickly and gave her a small meeting room near the rear office. One by one, workers came in, each unsure at first, then honest when they realized she was listening. A security guard said the new rules made his job easier because he now had clear steps. An attendant said the training changed how they handled pressure because they were taught to slow down and verify. A crew lead admitted that before, people sometimes relied on instinct and attitude. Now they relied on documented checks, and that reduced conflict for everyone. Maya listened carefully and asked what still felt difficult. They said the hardest part was breaking old habits when the terminal got busy and stress rose. Maya nodded and told them that standards matter most when stress is high. After the conversations, Maya asked for one more thing. She asked for a record of how many reports had been filed through the anonymous channel. The manager hesitated, then handed her a summary. It showed a small number of reports, not explosive, but enough to prove the channel was being used. Some reports were about tone, some about rushing, some about small moments of disrespect that were corrected quickly. Maya felt a strange sense of gratitude for those reports. They meant people were noticing, and noticing is the first step toward change. She asked what actions were taken, and the manager explained coaching sessions and follow-ups. Maya reminded him that follow-ups must be consistent, or the channel becomes a decoration. He agreed, serious now, and promised monthly reviews with the operations head. As Maya walked back through the lobby, she noticed a woman near the coffee station. The woman looked uncertain, holding her phone like a shield, glancing toward the counter. A staff member approached her gently, asked her name, and offered assistance without judgment. Maya watched the interaction, calm and quiet, feeling the moment land softly inside her. This was the real result, not meetings and policy documents. This was a person being treated with respect at the first contact, without needing to prove anything beyond her name. Maya looked at Nora, and Nora gave a small nod, like she saw it too. Maya did not smile widely, but her eyes softened. Progress does not always arrive like fireworks, sometimes it arrives like a door held open without question. Later that day, Maya met with Sam and Lena at her office. She shared her observations and said the culture was improving but needed reinforcement. Sam recommended a quarterly audit and a mystery client program to test responses during peak times. Lena recommended rewarding staff who demonstrated respectful behavior under pressure. Maya agreed and added a new idea. She wanted a leadership story shared internally, not her story as a hero, but the lesson as a standard. She wanted the staff to understand why verification first protects everyone, including them. She wanted it framed as professionalism, not fear of owners. Because if respect only appears when people think the owner is watching, then nothing has truly changed. That night, Maya sat at her desk and wrote a short message to the terminal team. She kept the language simple and direct. She thanked them for improving the process and reminded them that every client matters. She said the goal was not perfection, the goal was consistency. She said mistakes can happen, but how people respond matters more than the mistake itself. She reminded them that dignity is not a luxury service, it is the foundation of every service. When she finished, she read it once more and sent it. Nora watched quietly, then said it was the kind of message people actually remember. Maya nodded, because she knew kindness backed by standards is stronger than anger. A week later, Maya received another message from the terminal staff. This time it was from a young worker who said the new rules had changed how they viewed their job. He said he used to think private aviation was only about comfort and speed. Now he saw it was also about responsibility, fairness, and trust. Maya stared at the message for a long moment, then leaned back with a slow breath. She realized something important. The day she was denied entry had not only tested her patience. It had given her a chance to shape a system that would outlast one flight and one morning. That is what ownership truly meant. Months passed and the terminal continued running smoothly. Maya still traveled, still worked, still carried the quiet weight of leadership. But now, each time she walked into that glass lobby, she saw a difference in small things. A steady greeting, a careful verification, a respectful tone even when someone looked unsure. No one laughed at people anymore, not openly, not carelessly. And when stress rose, people relied on steps, not assumptions. Maya did not need to announce herself or show documents to be treated properly. She simply walked in as a person, and that felt like the biggest victory of all. Not because she had power, but because she had used it to make the place fair for everyone.